In April of 2024, I was invited to join a bunch of enthusiasts with the Peterson Museum to visit the Mullin Collection in Oxnard, California, one last time. Arrangements were made to see this collection that Peter Mullin had assembled over the last several decades. It was a collection of rare pre-war French automobiles, and although it's not really in my wheelhouse, I really felt that a collection like this might never be seen in one place at one time again. So I flew out from New York for this special weekend. I recognize a lot of these cars because I've seen them all before on the lawn at Pebble Beach for the years that I've been going. As I wandered around and looked at all of these wonderful cars, I was actually surprised at how overwhelmingly sad I was by seeing this collection. It represented a lifetime of collecting, of cars, memorabilia, furniture, all the things that Peter Mullin loved and cherished in his life. And knowing that this collection was being split up, that it was going to go away to other collectors and dispersed around the world, made me feel sad about this being the last time anyone would see this collection in this form, in this place again. Walk with me as I toured this collection one last time.
Back in that corner. It's the back of the right hand corner. And it's usually like the beige one beyond the roof. Okay. I just want you to get this car into your, absorbed into your brain.
This is it before?
Yeah. So a Bugatti Brescia, and imagine the rich kid at UCLA. He's driving a Murcielago now. In 1922, he is driving a Brescia. It's a very high performance sports car of the period. So now let's get to the lake car.
Yeah.
What he said was, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this is also a Bugatti Brescia. So the story is, it's a bunch of rich guys, and they're playing poker in Paris. And one of the players doesn't have enough money to call a hand, but he does have a sweet 1922 Brescia. So he calls the hand with his Brescia and loses. This is when this is a new car. So the game breaks up. The guy who won the Brescia, he's got no money because he's been playing poker in Paris, but he's got a nice new Brescia. So he drives back to Switzerland. When he gets to the Swiss border, the border security folks say, hey, you need to pay the duties on this car. He's got no money, he's been playing poker in Paris. So they seize the property. And under Swiss law, the property had to be destroyed, and it was a matter of days. But these Swiss guards, these Swiss border guys, They're not idiots. This is a nice new Brescia. So they think, I'll suspend the car by chains in Lake Maggiore, and I'll wait until everyone's forgot about it. Then I'll extract the car, and I'll have a new Brescia. But the chains break, and the thing ends up in, don't hold me to anything on the numbers, thing ends up in something like 70 meters of water. The whole world knows it's there. It's just a used Bugatti. In the town, Lake Maggiore, there's a diving club, and the diving club, one of the rites of passage of the diving club was to dive down to the Brescia. And so this side of the car was in mud, this side of the car was exposed, it's kind of been picked clean. A lot of the pieces of metal have been picked off. But we get into the 80s, I want to say, and there's a young guy at the diving club who was killed in an act of gang violence. And it happens in Switzerland too, it's tragic. But the diving club wanted to raise money for anti-violence programs, and they thought, what we'll do, we'll raise this Brescia up and we'll sell it. So the whole Bugatti world knew about it, and Peter thought it was a good cause. And when the Bugatti was raised in auction, he would participate. And he felt that would be, as I understand it, he felt that would be a $60,000 or $70,000 Bugatti. But there was a tech billionaire up in the Bay Area, and he wanted to restore this car. This car's very restorable. And he ended up getting the car for $250,000-ish. And his goal with this thing was never to restore it. He viewed this car as nature acting on man's perfect form. I look at this car through an engineer's lens. I don't have that artistic ability at all that he had. And what I see on this thing that stands out is I can see these 4 or 8 brass buttons, one on each side valve cover, so I can adjust the valves easily. Really, really thinking man's kind of stuff. All the wood in the body. People ask me, well, how did Bugatti get from making furniture to making cars? Man, it wasn't a very long trip, right? It was very, very similar technically. The steel on this car is nailed to this wooden frame. The transmission on this car is divorced, so the engine is here, the transmission is here, they're not bolted together, which is typical today. The quarter elliptic springs, they're 1/4 of an ellipse. Every Bugatti in this building from 1922 to 1939 is built basically the same way. So it's a great way to see the engineering of the time. This wire made up what was a rumble seat at the time. And the way the craftsman made that body was they cut a hole in the steel and then they just wrapped a heavy wire around that opening to stiffen it up. And that's what hot rodders do today. It's called wire forming. And they're doing the exact same kind of things today. So for some people, it's art. I can see the art and the engineering of it all. But there's your light car.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for a lovely
Thank you very much.
discussion about it.
Yes.
How long was this underwater?
Yes.
Yeah, it's underwater for a good 50 years.
Oh, it is.
So, because they didn't want to take any of the energy from the engine away, right? So the propeller runs the water.
Yeah, the answer.
Runs the water pump.
I thought it was that we were saying it was going to drive something.
It had a
Yeah.
pretty gear drive on it.
Getting pretty hot, pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Now we know we can sleep at night. No, the answer. We would have never known.
Somebody right behind it, it's got a little flow through it.
But there's one other thing you see here. You've got us in engineering, so we're stuck with it. We look at these restored Bugattis, the Arab E, the Adelante. Cars are beautifully restored by brilliant craftsmen. But this car was built by workers at Bugatti in 1922. No one's touched it since. And it's very different. You see the factory worker, how he's making wiring harness. It's different than the guy who's restoring a multi-million-dollar car. So we really get we get some insight into what it really was.
What they're saying is that Bugatti was a furniture maker, hence the boat and all the wood. And they said that all of this structure is made of wood. And so he was saying that it's not a very far departure from furniture to automobiles. And all they did was just build.
He used cast inlay, so they're carving wood, they're casting metal, and these two boys, Ettore and Rembrandt, are going up in their dad's furniture factory, carving wood and casting metal, and you end up, the technology to cast metal for furniture, or to cast a wildcat, or to cast an engine block is exactly the same. These are brilliant guys, but what they're doing really didn't depart all that far from one another. And I will challenge anyone who tells me that being an engineer and casting an engine block is not art. That is high